Howdy, let's make a poster. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Colton, also known as Nerd Designer. Today, we are continuing our journey through the Star Wars sequel trilogy movies in preparation for Ahsoka premiering later this month with, drumroll please, The Last Jedi. The movie that made everybody lose their collective shit.
Let me start this review by saying, f*** this movie. F*** this movie and f*** everyone in it.
Hey everybody, Ryan Johnson here. Sorry about that, me taking a huge giant dump. I was just too busy shitting all over the Star Wars franchise.
I'll be showing you how I made the entire poster step by step while also talking through the movie, what I think about it, and hopefully not embarrassing myself too badly.
All right, I have never seen a more embarrassing display in my entire career.
Or inciting a riot of people who come to kill me in my sleep. Let's open up Photoshop and get goddamn started. I really wanted to see if I could create that kind of crate speeder digging through the ground, white and red, kind of dragging through it kind of thing. So how I went about achieving this effect, it's a couple steps. I had a very specific plan in my head for how to go about the trail. Once I had cut the speeder out of a photo I found on Google, it's really small, so pixel count really doesn't have that big of an effect. I just needed a top-down view. I put a just a basic red shape underneath it. I used the triangles tool and the rectangle tool to kind of make a fucking wake. After I had placed a rough idea of the wake coming out of the speeder, I used a smoke brush. You can find a million of them on Google for free. What I do is I lower the opacity and the flow on this smoke brush to about 70%. Then I make a layer mask on the triangle, the wake path I've made, and I just start fading out the edges. The idea here is with a couple layers on top of it, it will eventually have this kind of gradation to it that looks really natural. Just start going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until eventually you're happy with it and it looks a little something like this. Once you have your path laid out, what I found is a really useful tool for this is gradient maps. It was really easy here. It was just white, red, black gradient map. That gradation is what makes it look less like smoke and more like dirt, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
It takes a little bit of fidgeting around with. It takes just a little bit of finessing. If you don't get it right, just keep going. Just keep digging. Just keep messing with stuff. Eventually, you'll step back and be like, oh shit, that's exactly what I wanted. What I did next was add red and white dust particles having a motion that goes away from the ship, and it's gonna be underneath it. This is kind of the same process. Once you've placed your PNG, you add a overlay color. I chose to do red and white to try and think of like there's dirt on top and then there's dirt underneath, like the red crystals. Those are both being kind of shot up at the same time. Cohesion is what we're looking for. Then we start adding effects to the ship itself. It needs to fit within the environment. You can achieve this effect with three primary effects layers. You can do this with a color balance tool, you can do this with a hue and a saturation tool, and then a levels tool. Those are the three things that you basically will use not only on this ship, but every single element in this poster to get it to all look like it's inhabiting the same universe. I don't even know how to say it. This is all a very hoity-toity way of saying, just make it feel like it fits. And the last thing we're gonna do in terms of cohesion is another free photo of a cracked paint or cracked ground texture. So right now it feels like there's smoke coming out of the back of the ship instead of the ship ripping up significant portions of the ground. You just set the overlay this time to whatever you feel is best. I went with darker color, maybe a multiply on some of them. You just want those ground cracks to be a slight reddish, close to black kind of look, and then the white to be completely see-through. Then you just click on a layer mask, and same thing as before, smoke brush your way through that bitch. All these effects only have to fit this little triangle where you're gonna see it, and then all the other characters are going to cover up the rest of it. So the first thing when it comes to composition for me is usually the logo. I found this PNG of the Last Jedi logo on the internet, but the thing that I needed to do for this is I didn't like how the Last Jedi was black.
Pause.
So what I did, it's very easy to just paint white in any way you want to. It can be the shape tool, it can be a paintbrush tool, it can be the pen tool, whatever you want. you put it above the logo layer, and you clipping mask it down. Boom, bop, boom. It's got your fucking logo. Nice. Then we move on to, I cut out this photo of Rey. I'm so fucking happy with the advertisement photos for this movie. I love when a movie does character only solo photos, because then I can do a proper floating head with dramatic lighting and proper resolution. It makes my job so much easier. And The Last Jedi has the best photos in terms of advertising of the whole trilogy. So this is going to be the best poster for that reason. I wanted Luke to be at the bottom right above the logo, and then I put Rey and Kylo on the sides. This is all in terms of composition setting. After I had a rough idea of the triangle for those three, it was really just filling in that empty space. I don't know why Disney hates Finn. I mean, I understand that they fucked him in terms of character in the actual movies, but I didn't know it spread also to the advertising. There is no good photos of Finn. Everybody else gets an awesome character poster except him. Anyways, I usually just go about blending in the same way I've been blending everything else. You click on the layer mask. In this case, you click a layer mask on Luke. Then you take a brush. You can use a soft brush, but in floating head compositions, smoke brushes kick ass. There's just so much ability to fit characters together that a regular soft brush just doesn't do it justice. Usually around 50 or 70% opacity and fill is all you need. It takes forever, but like I'm doing with Luke, you just kind of feather the edges, and you do that for all the characters until they all kind of fit. At that point, move on to the lighting, where on Luke specifically, you try and match the light sources of your characters. In this particular instance, you have a blue lightsaber on the left and a red lightsaber on the right. So I think that duality in his character can also be represented kind of lightly here, especially because he's in the center. That was kind of what I was going for with the composition as a whole. What I do, it's a combination of the color balance adjustments tool, the levels tool, and the hue and saturation tool. But the added wrinkle here for a character is the inner glow. This is where you have kind of this highlighted edge from a very intense light source directly behind or above someone. There's a million ways to do it. A lot of designers you'll see on YouTube do it by hand because they have more time and artistry than I do, but I find the shortcut is if you double click on the layer, you can just go to inner glow. You can set it how you like. It's gonna look funny at first because it's going to uniformly cover the entirety of the edge, including your mask, which is supposed to be hidden. It looks really wacky, but you have to focus on the side that you want. In this case, it's the top left of Luke's hair. Once I've added that inner glow, then you right click on the part underneath the layer where it says inner glow and you hit create layer. This will turn your effect into its own separate layer that you can then layer mask away the parts that you don't want. You then have to repeat for every character involved. And at the end, it should look a little something like this. The standard way I like to go about making lightsabers in Photoshop is lightsabers are just a white band or shape that is then overexposing the camera, and the inner portion is actually just white, with glows and colors on the outside affecting the objects around them that make them look blue. So what I did for Rey, you just make a shape. You just make a white shape. Rey had a lightsaber in her standard stock photo, which made it very easy for me to implement this because she already has whatever they were doing on set. The blue of whatever LED bullshit she was using is already on her character. What I have to do now is I have to just make sure the edges look realistic. Once I have my white shape in place, you double click on that shape layer and it's just an inner and an outer glow. And you can kind of tailor these however you see fit. The inner glow gives it a softer edge. And so if you dial that back, you can have more of a Clone Wars crisp white edge, or you can really push the inner glow and a blur afterwards if you want like a Jedi Fallen Order kind of hazy, a cloudy-ish kind of blade edge. Anyways, I always try and add in a lens flare. Again, just Google lens flare PNG. You'll find one with a transparent background. You can copy and paste right at the hilt, right at the edge of where the blade comes out of the saber handle, because that's the point their eyes will be drawn to if there's a mistake. And the lens flare just completely blows out this imaginary camera. And then nobody can tell where your lightsaber begins and the photo begins because you've covered up that masking point. Boom. How I did Kylo's is a very different kind of process. How I went about doing this is the ripple effect. It's the same process for the blue lightsaber, except you have to ripple the shape first. Once I've pen tooled my shape out, I then go to distort and then ripple and medium. And I usually just kind of set this one to like 400 or 500. But once you have that, do the inner and outer glow, just like we did for Rey. If I can match the inner glow to the inner glow on the photo, then we're in business. And when you're done, it should look a little something like this. Now, before I finish up, let's talk about the movie. I think I like this movie.
Are you sure about that?
I rewatched it for this video, and it's got some really low points to it. Don't get me wrong. This movie looks amazing, and that, I think, pushes it a little bit higher than it used to be for me. They fucked Luke. I get it. They fucked him up. This version of Luke sucks. I get it. But I think in recent memory, he's kind of sucked even more. This fake AI, deep fake robot voice monster that they've been putting into the TV shows really puts into perspective. I think I prefer curmudgeonly old semi-attempted murderer Luke. I do think in hindsight of watching these shows, The Last Jedi is more for me than the new stuff that's come out. And I never thought I'd say that, but the Book of Boba Fett can't even sit through it. Please don't kill me in my sleep. If you disagree with me and you still think this movie's awful, please tell me in the comments how big of a dipshit you think I am. People were pretty ruthless to me in the last video, and we got in quite a few arguments. So if you're interested in joining, comment down below. Okay, so when you've done everything up until this point, it should look a little something like this. All the colors and the effects and the little things. The ships have lasers and the lightsabers look good. Lately, I have been obsessed with the illustrated poster hand-drawn look. It's primarily three main effects. There's the camera raw filter, specifically with the clarity bar cranked up. Then there's the oil paint feature and the posterized edge feature. And recently I've also been adding a high pass filter. First thing you need to do is group all your layers, duplicate and merge. So you just get one photo you can work with. Then you'll need to cut it out because the artboard doesn't cut everything when you merge it all together. You'll have all this shit that's off your artboard that you couldn't see up until now. So you need to select and cut. You kind of play around with the colors and the sliders until you're happy with it. So you can see without the camera raw filter, there's a huge difference. This already makes it significantly better. The next filter that we use is oil paint. This is where you're gonna kind of want to play around with it because this can get out of hand pretty quickly. But I usually like to stay within a stylization of 0.5 to 1.5 and a cleanliness of 8 and a bristle detail of 1 to 1.5. You can see what it looks like with and without. I think we're getting really close to what I had in my head. These effects really kind of smooth over all the rough patches you had in the process making it. If you forgot any spots, they usually go away here. Then we move on to posterized edge. I really like how it makes the Millennium Falcon look really cool, in my opinion. Kylo Ren's scar looks really good when you add this filter. I don't totally understand what it does, but we're really close now. And the last thing I've been doing is adding a high pass filter. You can set around 8 and then you set it to pin light or whatever you feel is the best. You can see where if you set it to pin light, it just brings out the stars and the sparkles and the flare and the white edges, the highlights on the hair, the highlights on the beard. It just brings a little bit of this little shine to it that I really enjoy. And that's the poster. Thank you for sticking with me through the entirety of this video. If you're still watching, I really, truly, truly appreciate you. It's been a tough road recently, and making these videos has been the lone bright spot this summer. So thank you for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. Keep an eye out for The Rise of Skywalker. Let me know down below what you think of The Last Jedi. Please don't forget that I love you very much. Stay sexy. And don't be too mean to people about Star Wars movies online. Bye.